watching Shalom TV, celebrating Jewish culture. Funding for Shalom TV has been provided by the following. And by viewers like you.
Jewish Education in Media is pleased to present L'Chaim, a program that highlights the people, issues, and events of importance to the Jewish community. Now here is your host, Rabbi Mark Golub.
Another political firestorm has erupted in Israel. It always seems like there's something going on in Israel. This time the firestorm is over a proposed bill which Prime Minister Netanyahu wants to present to the Israeli Knesset, which would amend Israel's Citizenship Act to require individuals wishing to become naturalized Israeli citizens, as opposed to those seeking Israeli citizenship as a Jew under the law of return. But this bill would require anyone seeking to become a naturalized Israeli citizen to pledge an oath of allegiance to a Jewish and democratic state and to honor the laws of the state. The Prime Minister's bill has already been approved by the Israeli cabinet, and now it will go to the Knesset's Legislative Committee, and it will pass there. If it passes there, it will come before the full Knesset for their consideration. There are many in the State of Israel and throughout world Jewry who are extremely critical of this proposed oath of allegiance to become part of the naturalization process for Israeli citizenship, and to explore the reasons behind the opposition and what this might mean for the future of the State of Israel. I am most pleased to be joined by Ken Bob, president of the labor Zionist organization Amenu, which means our people or our nation. Ken has been president of Amenu since 2004. He's also the immediate past chair of the Habonim Dror Foundation, the alumni organization of the labor Zionist youth movement. He's also on the Jewish Agency Board of Governors, and he serves on a variety of nonprofit boards, including the Long Island Children's Museum and Matzat, the parent organization of JewishSchool.com. Ken is a member of the Forward Association and is an active member of the Huntington Jewish Center. And Ken, thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be here today.
Thank you. So you oppose this oath of allegiance that Netanyahu would like to see become part of the naturalization citizenship process in Israel. Explain to us why.
Mark, there's a few reasons. First of all, I think that it's unnecessary. I think at a time when Israel is focused on a number of different threats, including claims by its enemies that it's not legitimate, that it's not a democratic state, that to come up with a loyalty oath that can be certainly perceived as being anti-democratic or even racist, I think is very problematic.
You say that it would in some way threaten the perception that Israel is a democratic state?
Right. I think that Israel's identity among the world is this sort of liberal democratic bastion in a Middle East surrounded by states that are not democratic, that are ruled by dictators that are religious theocracies. And here you have Israel as the liberal democratic bastion. And that's why I think the U.S. and other countries really respect Israel and support it. And here now you have a loyalty oath that'll be asking non-Jews, non-Jewish potential citizens to pledge their allegiance to a Jewish state.
I don't understand. America has a Pledge of Allegiance.
Right, but it's not to a specific religion.
This is not to a religion.
I understand that.
No one is being asked to pledge an allegiance to Judaism. They're being asked to pledge allegiance to a Jewish state. And I want to come back for one moment because maybe I'm wrong and you'll help me understand. I know democratic state after democratic state, certainly the United States of America, has an oath of allegiance it asks anyone who's becoming a naturalized American citizen to recite. And it goes like this. We're going to put it up on the screen for people to see. Somebody who wants to become an American citizen must say, I hereby declare an oath that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen, and that I will support and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. This is the oath of allegiance that must be taken by anyone who wants to become an American citizen. If you want to become an American congressman or an American senator, you must swear an oath of allegiance. If you're a school student in America, every day you're asked to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't understand the comment that I've heard made, that you made, that somehow democratic countries don't require an oath of allegiance from people who want to become naturalized citizens or from people in their own government, their own people, and their own children. And in that context, I don't understand why anyone would argue against, for that reason, Israel would in some way be offending other democratic states.
I have absolutely no objection to oath of loyalty. Absolutely none. The issue here is to a Jewish and democratic state. It's not a coincidence, Mark, that that is the language that has been suggested. Netanyahu has been under enormous pressure since the last election when Avigdor Lieberman ran his famous campaign, No Loyalty, No Citizenship, which was addressed specifically at the Arab minority in Israel. And so the whole issue here is really how it's being framed and how it's being worded. So the issue here is around the Jewish piece, to go to only the non-Jewish immigrants. Now, you mentioned in your introduction that the law of return, you know, it allows Jews to come to Israel without having this kind of oath. I'm in favor of a loyalty oath, no problem, to the state of Israel. And I believe there's already a loyalty oath in place that calls about the state of Israel.
Are you saying the only thing that really bothers you, or that this element bothers you, because somebody applying for the law of return doesn't have to pledge?
No, I'm saying in general, I don't think people should have to pledge in Israel to a Jewish state.
Okay.
I think you can live in Israel as a good citizen and serve the army and not pledge your allegiance to a Jewish state, but to the state of Israel.
Okay, by the way, you do have to pledge in America to a democratic state.
Absolutely.
You
I'm in
do have
favor
to,
of that.
Excuse me. You also have to pledge to a specific constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? In Israel, the nature of the state is Jewish, as in America, the nature of the state is to a democracy and a specific constitution. The fact that it doesn't mention any religion is appropriate in both instances, but both instances are asking for a pledge to a concept, the concept of a state. In America, democratic, represented by a constitution. In Israel, there is a nature of the state. The nature of the state is it is a Jewish state.
Well, I think it's interesting, Mark, if you look at where this is being discussed in Israel today. So people would like to make this in some sort of left-right political issue or something. You notice that some of the big opponents of this proposal in the government were actually members of Mr. Netanyahu's Likud party, Dan Meridor, Benny Begin, the son of former Prime Minister, Michael Eitan, the Speaker of the Knesset, Ruby Rivlin. And why is that? Because they're old-school liberals. They're part of that Jabotinsky revisionist liberal Zionist strain, which says that we want to be democratic, we want to respect our Arab citizens, our non-Jewish citizens. Herzl's vision of Zionism. He wrote about possibly having an Arab prime minister one day, God forbid. So I think there's a sense of attitude here that I think is the problem. I understand what you're saying about Jewish or Jewish people, but I think you're splitting hairs because I think the attitude behind this is actually an anti-democratic motivation.
I don't think you're right. I think you're absolutely wrong. It has to do with the extent to which Jews are comfortable saying Israel should be, was meant to be a state for Jews, in which anyone who is not a Jew, anyone who wants to be a loyal citizen of the state is welcome. Anybody. And their civil rights, their social rights, and their citizenship rights, if they become an Israeli citizen, are protected too. But that the state was created for a purpose. The purpose was for it to be a Jewish state. And when the Balfour Declaration talks about a Jewish homeland, when the partition plan talks about the creation of a Jewish state, the United Nations, the world, said that Israel should be a Jewish state. They didn't mean it in religious terms.
Right. And
they meant it as Amenu means it, as a people. And I don't want the state of Israel to, in some way, define itself by people who don't understand what Amenu is all about. And I don't want that from you. When you and I talk, we understand what Jewish means. It has nothing to do with religion, just as it had nothing to do with the partition plan. And Israel was established as a Jewish state. And then it said to anybody, you want to be part of this Jewish state? Come and be a part. But don't ask it not to be a Jewish state.
So I think the problem here is you and others are conflating the issue of Israel's a Jewish state with this loyalty oath being suggested now in the current political constellation. I 100% agree with you. You know, in my different positions that I hold, I'm also a member of the World Zionist Organization Executive. So as you correctly pointed out, I am a Zionist. Yes, I'm proud to declare I'm a Zionist.
I know.
As I told you previously, my daughter's making Aliyah to Israel in December. So I'm a proud Zionist, and I'm going to have a child living in Israel. But still, when you think about the political context, why is it that some great labor Zionists, some great Zionists, you know, Ehud Barak, the defense minister, Yitzhak Herzog, the social welfare minister, who's the son of the former president, and already the Likud ministers that I mentioned, somehow voted against this. So this is not a Zionist, non-Zionist issue. So for you to suggest that the Zionists somehow don't understand who they are and that we're talking about a Jewish people, no, this is talking about context and the political constellation, and that this is maybe the forerunner of another attack later on current Arab citizens, and this is what we're worried about.
Okay, are you saying that you have nothing against this intrinsically? That you're only worried about the timing of it?
No, I'm talking about the political context and why even they're bringing it up now.
Isn't the political context timing?
Okay, you know, I think there's a timing issue here, but I think that it's unnecessary. That's the point I'm trying to make, that when Israel's fighting a battle against delegitimization and trying to find peace with the Palestinians. So yes, there's certainly a timing issue. I think it's very curious that they're bringing it up now. Maybe you can explain to me why you think they brought it up now if it isn't a matter of timing and political motivation.
By the way, there is obviously motivation. It seems to me it is, though, on the face of it, in terms of every rational argument you can pull, that it is just. It is not anti-democratic. It is not against anything America or other Western nations do. It's not against anything that was established in 47. All it does is state out loud what everybody knows to be true, that Israel is meant to be a state for the Jews. Out of curiosity, Ken, does Hatikva upset you?
I'm going to give a careful answer to that. It doesn't upset me because I identify with it as a Zionist, but I understand why perhaps people who are not Jewish and who are not Zionists, who are citizens in Israel, would be upset. I can appreciate that.
Okay, and just we'll make sure our audience understands. There's a line in Hatikva which talks about the soul of the Jew. And if you're not a Jew and you're a citizen of Israel, you are singing a national anthem which doesn't apply to you.
That's right.
You would tell me, therefore, you think Hatikva was a mistake. We should never have created Hatikva, or if we did, we should have left that line out.
Well, now I'm going back to your issue of timing and motivation. You know, at a time when the Zionist movement was being established and developing its symbols and developing its identity, it was absolutely, completely appropriate.
Is it appropriate today?
It's the anthem today.
Anthems are changed. We've modified anthems. Should the anthem,
look, I'll
does
tell you
Ken
something.
Bob thinks Hatikva should be changed?
If anthems can be changed, I would immediately change the Star Spangled Banner. It's unsingable, as we've seen before many baseball games. So I think it's a hypothetical question.
That's a non sequitur. Are you saying to me you think that Hatikva in this climate should be changed?
No, I don't think it needs to be changed.
But every time it's sung, it is doing exactly what you don't want to do.
But it exists already. So
change it.
I'm not looking for arguments here. I'm talking about the symbolism of there's a new act, which is, I think, taken politically motivated. You know, I'll say one other thing, if I can, Mark. I think also what this represents is a real struggle in Israel today between those left and right and center who are interested in maintaining Israel as a liberal democracy and those